Okay, so for today's video, we're going to be checking out what is Passover. Now I believe Passover should be happening probably somewhat soon. I know for Christians, Easter is starting next weekend. Um, and so let's take a look, see if there's any similarities, what the whole difference is and everything, and we'll get right into it.
So what is Passover? Passover is the Jewish holiday of liberation, based on our own story of emergence from Egypt and our becoming free. It's the most important holiday on the Jewish calendar. Pesach is where our history began, where we went from being a clan, a small family, to being a nation. It's the birth of what it means to be Jewish in the world today.
Okay, so Pesach. I have seen that word and heard that word before. So that's another word for Passover. Okay. And the Jewish liberation. I'm guessing that's when Moses freed the slaves, right? From Egypt. And this is Matzah, I think it's called.
So the Hebrew name for Passover is Pesach.
Pesach.
Pesach literally means passed over, because in the Bible itself, in the book of Exodus, we are told that God Pasach, God passed over the doors of the Israelites during the plague of the firstborn.
Right. There's like, I think it was 10 plagues, right? And then the last plague was they were told to put blood, I think it was, above their door frame, and then as God or Jesus, whoever it was, passed through, whenever he saw the blood, he wouldn't touch the house. I think that's, at least that's the story that I remember. We'll let this guy talk. Continue.
The 10 plagues were the
10
driving
plagues.
points of the
Okay,
story of
yeah.
liberation. It's a complicated thing to talk about one people's liberation at the expense of another nation's life. But with each of the plagues, Pharaoh was told, "Let my people go." And when Pharaoh did not, the
Right, the
punishment
locusts,
was
the
collective
frogs.
until the final and most awful plague, which was the death of the firstborn Egyptians. The Israelites were called to place some blood on the lintel of their doors as a signal that this was a home of an Israelite.
Right, and I think the blood was like the blood of a lamb, right? It had to be, I think it was like a lamb with no markings, like a spotless lamb, something like that.
And so when the angel of death would pass over, that family would be spared.
Oh, the angel of death. Okay,
So Passover
that makes
happens
sense.
during the Hebrew month of Nisan, which is, historically speaking, the first month of the biblical calendar. It usually happens around March or April, sometimes May. Passover in the state of Israel is
Whoa.
observed.
Oh, so that's that other calendar that I've seen. I think it was for Purim, right? There was another calendar that they showed that Purim. Right. Okay. Cool.
For 7 days and outside of Israel for 8 days.
Hold on. Wait a second. Let me see what he says there.
Biblical calendar. It usually happens around March or April, sometimes May. Passover in the state of Israel is observed for 7 days and outside of Israel for 8 days. And during those days,
Wow. Okay. So 7 days in Israel, 8 days outside. I think for us, it's Easter is just basically the one day. It's the Easter Sunday. You technically have, I guess, Good Friday and then Easter Monday. But yeah, I think the like Easter celebration is just a Sunday typically. So you guys do it for 7, 8 days. Wow.
the way that Jews eat changes very significantly. We do not have leaven, which for most of the Jewish community means having matzah. It's a
Matzah,
different
yeah.
kind of bread, which
Okay.
reminds us of the race that we were in when we left Egypt. We left in such a hurry, we didn't have time to let the bread rise. Leaven is what happens when bread rises. We actually come to understand that as a metaphor. On Passover, I'm called to take the parts of me that are puffed up, the parts of me that just rise much bigger than they should, and to say, you know what, actually right now, let me remember humility, and let me remember the worth of everyone else.
That's a good
and not
way to
think
look
so
at
much
it,
of
yeah.
myself. Well, the sweetest thing to do is just say Happy Passover. But if you're on the third or fourth day of Passover and you know it, and someone Jewish nearby is bringing to work or to school a little bag of crumbly matzah, you can also say, "How you doing? You okay? Soon you'll be able to get back to your regular."
Okay, so the struggle is real, I guess, for those 7 to 8 days when all you're eating is unleavened unleavened bread. Yeah.
diet very, very soon.
That's funny.
On Passover, we have a Seder. Some of us have two. Seder is a word that literally means order. And in this very elaborate ritual,
Oh, I thought the Seder was one of the books that had all the prayers in it. Maybe I'm now mixing up my my books.
in Jewish tradition, we have different steps, all of which are designed to help us relive the experience of being liberated from Egypt. The Hebrew is Bechol Dor Vador. In every generation, we are called to see ourselves as if we emerged ourselves from Egypt. Part of the way I do that is by having a plate with symbols on it called a Seder plate, and the different symbols each point to a different.
Okay, so we got matzah, maybe a chicken leg or a lamb leg, water, wine, egg, parsley maybe.
Different facet of the story. The charoset, which is a sweet mixture of sometimes apples, sometimes dates,
That looks delicious.
nuts, and grape juice or wine, is supposed to signify the mortar with which my ancestors built the pyramids in Egypt. It's a symbol of slavery. Among the symbols on the Seder plate on the table are the maror, which is a bitter herb. Sometimes it's a horseradish, sometimes it's romaine lettuce. It's meant to taste bitter to my mouth, just as slavery tasted bitter to our mouths. Other symbols, including salt water, are there, and I take something that is green because Passover is also called Chag HaAviv, the holiday of the spring, where things begin to grow again. And I take something that is a symbol of life, and I dip it into salt water, not once, but twice. And I take it out, and I eat it. In so doing, I recognize that not everything is so fresh and sweet. Our history has moments that are salty and bitter.
See, I mean, I guess Easter also does the same thing to like help you remember what happened, at least for the Christian aspect of what they believe in the everything like that. But it's so interesting, like how ingrained it is to never forget like the people of the past and what they did for the people of today. It's a very simple thing to do, but I guess a lot of people don't do it because they're very like in on their own, which is another thing that he said, I guess if you're puffed up all the time, just kind of get that away. Think about the here and the now, and also, the past. So that's a really beautiful thing.
Like tears, so too is life meant to continue. There's a tradition that happens toward the end of the Seder where you open your door for Elijah the prophet to come and announce that the Messiah has arrived. And I've lived long enough to worry that that's not going to happen. And because I've lived long enough to worry that that's not going to happen, sometimes I don't really believe it. And so I work really hard as soon as the Seder begins to allow myself to really hope. To hope that despite everything I know, the world is going to be better right now. And that when I open up my door, Elijah's going to be there. It's a tradition for some of us to open the door and have the children be the ones. And sometimes to play a game and someone sneaks out and they dress up like Elijah the prophet.
That's beautiful.
But I really, really hope that this year will be the year. We're called by the Torah itself, by the Bible, to remember to be just with a stranger, to be kind to the stranger, to love the stranger 36 times in the Torah, because we know what it is to be a stranger. If I've truly relived my story, then not only will my heart be moved, but my body will be moved to remember that liberation is either collective or not at all. I cannot be free if my sisters and brothers are not. I cannot be liberated if anyone in the world is enslaved. I believe that Passover is there as a wake-up call to the Jewish community to be active, involved in your neighbor's welfare.
Wow, that's super cool. Very informative. I mean, quick and simple. I think it covered a lot of good points. 2 years ago, well, I guess the prophet didn't come to him, or the Messiah, I should say. But, who knows? Maybe this will be the year. Anyways, as always, I'd love to hear from you guys. I'll probably check out some music as well, related to Passover now that I have a bit more of a understanding on it. So maybe I can do some connecting with the songs. But as always, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.